Welcome to Democratic Television, a program of the Santa Clara County Democratic Party that brings insights, perspectives, and attitudes of our always thoughtful Democratic guests. Today we're joined by Helen Chapman, candidate for San Jose City Council District 6. Helen, we're going to talk a little bid about why the heck we should get you elected to District 6, but before we go there, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where you're from? Where'd you go to school? What was your favorite cereal?
My favorite cereal. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm from Orinda, from Northern California, so I'm a native Californian. My parents came here from Europe. My father's German. He came from Germany. My mother came here from England, so I'm first generation Californian, born and raised here. I have two sisters. I went to Miramonte High School back in the day. Yeah.
So you are running for city council now, and I want to talk to you about some of the experiences you've had. Did you have any role models in school that made you think someday I could be president, or somebody that made you think public service is important? Or
you have to go back. When I went to school, women didn't really take too much of a leadership role. I remember being in 4th grade. That was when girls could stop wearing dresses and we could wear pants to school. That was a very exciting day for me. In high school, you were typing, and you were going to nurse's aid, and so it really wasn't a direction of leadership. But I had a counselor that pushed me to get involved in community service, and my first role I was a candy striper for Alta Bates Hospital in Berkeley.
Oh.
And I thought it would just be for a couple of months. I ended up doing it for 2 years.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was a good learning experience, especially coming from Orinda and then going into Berkeley, which is a little bit different climate back in the 70s.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
Yeah, but it was a lot of fun. I learned a lot.
And then somehow, what brought you here to San Jose?
My second husband moved here to San Jose, so he had a job, and moved into where I live now, in the Rose Garden, Shasta-Hanchett neighborhood. I've been there, close to about 28 years now.
In the same house?
In the same house.
Wow.
Yeah.
So your neighbors are good friends, I hope?
Oh, yes. Yeah, we have a great neighborhood. My neighbor across the street, her family grew up in that house, and then so she got the house from her father, and I think there's a lot of people in the area that have long-term ties. I've learned that about San Jose, that people really have ties here. I feel kind of, still feeling like a transplant after 28 years, but I still feel, I'm a native to California. So,
right.
Yeah.
So what got you involved in thinking there's more to life than you have a family, a couple of boys, and a husband, and
a dog,
and this house for all this time?
Yeah. I think what really got me started was there was an incident across the street where my neighbor was having his son was having a seizure, and he cried out for help, and we went across the street to see how we could help. And he said, call the ambulance. We called the ambulance, but I think what was really scary is that when the ambulance came by, the ambulance passed his house because there was not enough light on the house, and he couldn't find the street number. So I think it was kind of a little bit of call to action that there was a situation. Our street was dark, and we both had young kids, and we needed to do something. So I went to my first neighborhood meeting, and I met, then it was Councilmember Nancy Ianni.
Oh.
And I raised my hand in the back, a shy person, and said, we need a street light. And she comes over and said, okay, we'll get you a street light. And sure enough, a few months later, we got a street light on the street. So I thought, wow, I did something. And it didn't take very much to do, and I think you feel that empowerment a little bit to know that just raising your hand and asking for something can create change. So I think that kind of gave me a little bit of confidence that I could do more.
Apparently you did do more.
Yeah.
So what happened? I understand you've been on boards and commissions and neighborhood associations. Tell me a little bit about that, getting to know your neighborhood.
Oh, I think it was my son that got me, first involved, because he moved in with me when I moved in with my husband's house, and he would knock on the doors and introduce himself. So that's how I got to know my neighbors. But I think once I got the street light done, it kind of gave me confidence to do some other things. I worked with a group of moms. We found a place to put a park in the area. We took over a tennis court next to the Rose Garden Library and got a park built. That was a fabulous accomplishment to work with San Jose Unified, the city, and Summerhill Homes, who was doing development at that time. Even, did our first petition going door to door and getting signatures to get the neighbors involved, met more people. From then I was asked to be on my neighborhood association board. I did that. And then I met Ken Yeager, who lives in the area, and he said, oh, you'd be a great park commissioner.
Oh.
So, you start service, and then the next thing you know, another door opens, another door opens, and I kept going through the doors. Yeah, because I thought, why not? And I served on the Park Commission for 6 years, and I chaired for 3 years. And that was a really great experience. I think that was really learning how the city worked, thinking that you could come on as a volunteer and you could make changes, and then you really have to work within the city bureaucratic process, and trying to create changes is a little bit harder than I thought.
Well, you're also not working with people that are all on your side. I mean, you have different interests and many times opposing interests. Right.
People that are, have one specific thing and they want you to get it done, and staff wants something else, and you have to try and find that balance and consensus. And then you have to get the commission on board too, because if you make a recommendation, you're advisory to council, but you want to make it as a whole instead of a divided. And so you have to reach that consensus. And chairing was difficult in some senses, because some people had very certain opinions that they wanted, and we had to find that balance.
Well, what were some of the kinds of issues that you had to take up, to give us an example of things that you weighed in on and challenges to get to probably the desired consensus?
Oh yeah. We served during the decade of investment during Measure P, the bond measures, where the voters had passed, and so there was a lot of money going forward in renovating parks and renovating restrooms and building community centers, and so there was a lot of approvals of master plans. I learned about the master plan process and community involvement. But I think one of the greatest accomplishments that we did, and this was it was a hard battle, was raising the park fees. Developers pay as part of their project park fees to projects, and
when they want to build housing or construction.
Exactly. Yes. Exactly. And there's a certain formula that's paid, and the current formula was fixed at 70%, 100% of raw land value, and so there was a gap in what they were paying, so they were getting a 30% discount. And what we wanted to do, and staff had recommended, to raising it from 70% to 85%. And we were bold enough to say, let's go to 100. Let's try this and see if we can get to 100%. And we tried working within the system to get this increase passed, and it wasn't working. So what we decided as a commission to do was to take it outside and involve the community, and really get the community to understand what we were trying to do, what it was about, and how it would affect them. And by the time we finished having community meetings and talking about this and really getting to know the process, when we took it to City Council, we had the City Council chambers packed with committee members, all there in favor of pushing to get those fees raised. And City Council had to unanimously approve it. It was a huge victory for us, and it has brought in millions of dollars into the city of San Jose.
So that was done under your leadership?
Yes.
Did it create friction in the business to developer community? And
yeah, I'm sure there's some developers that weren't happy that they were being asked to pay more, but it's really to their best interest, because if you're enhancing the parks around you, the community space, you're building that community center and connecting that trail system, it does bring a value to your project. It's an economic value to the city of San Jose, and I think that's the overall message we've been trying to get across for so many years, that parks really do bring that value to San Jose, and developers can make that investment along with the community.
So San Jose has a lot of neighborhood groups, I guess organizations that have grown up for different reasons to protest something or to advocate for something. Mm-hmm. How's your experience been with that, both in San Jose and in District 6?
I like working with neighborhood groups, and I think that, that one of the things that I feel, really strong about is making that connection to the neighbor and bringing that neighborhood voice to City Hall, whether it's through my neighborhood association, whether it's through a board I sit on, a nonprofit. I started the San Jose Parks Foundation.
You did?
I did.
Oh.
Yeah, I was a co-founder because we needed. That's when the economy started to go down, and we know that the city was cutting back on maintenance dollars, and we needed to get more volunteers involved. I advocated for getting a volunteer coordinator, which is now going in full force with the city of San Jose now. So we've got a volunteer person that's coordinating hundreds of volunteer hours and doing projects, and we've got the Parks Foundation off the ground, which is a nonprofit that people can donate to in order to help, and it can direct dollars towards their park or their project. We can also invigorate other neighborhood groups to get involved, so they can form a Friends of organization. It's a way of a tax donation for their project and raising money, so we can be that voice for them.
So you are running in District 6. Why don't you describe District 6? Because a number doesn't really have me envision the neighborhoods, the parks, and all that.
Oh, District 6, I think, is one of the most vocal and active districts within the city of San Jose, and I love it. It's great. We have Dearborn Station, we have Santana Row, we have Valley Medical Center, we have several great parks in the area, Bramhall Park. It really goes from the Santa Clara border with Corey all the way down to Kirtner, where the Second Harvest Food Bank is, and then borders on 87 and then Winchester Boulevard on the other side. So it's very diverse and very active in terms of needs. I think we're well known for Rose Garden and Willow Glen, but there's so many other neighborhoods in between that are just as deserving of attention. And I want to bring focus to all the neighborhoods in San Jose, but District 6, I think, can almost set the example of being that voice and that level of involvement that we're looking for from the people.
So San Jose is a city of about 1 million people. This is 1/10 of the city, so you have about 100,000 folks living in District 6.
Yeah, it's a lot of people.
And
yes.
you're responsible for their well-being.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Whether it's a pothole or, a street tree, or, it's public safety, or it's in an affordable housing issue, homeless is huge. Yeah. Well, those are things we're going to talk about in a little bit. We're going to take a break right now and then talk about District 6 and you. Great. Thank you.
We'll be right back.
All right.
Hi, I'm Santa Clara County Supervisor Dave Cortese, and one of the things that people ask me all the time is, how can I get involved? How can I make a difference? I have people contact me, constituents, who say, I'm ready to be involved more with my community. What do you recommend? Well, one of the things I would recommend is getting involved with the local Democratic Party. It's not only something that you can and should do as a Democrat, but it can be something very inspiring. This is the party that stands up for people most in need, and they can certainly use your help. As an elected official, I know that. As a Democratic activist in my own right, I know that you can make a difference by being involved on a day-to-day basis with our local Democratic Party. Want to know how to contact them? Do it by phone, 408-445-9500, or go to their website, www.sccdp.org. Your local Democratic Party, a great place to get involved.
Welcome back to Democratic Television and our guest, Helen Chapman, candidate for San Jose City Council, District 6. You just told us a little bit about what the district looks like. Let me ask you a more personal question.
Sure.
How's the family handle mom or wife running for city council? Because it's got to take you away from them.
Oh my gosh, you cannot do this type of work without your family support. And I owe so much to my husband, who walks precincts with me. My son Brandon, who's an Eagle Scout himself. So he's done service himself. He did the rose markers and the rose garden as part of his Eagle Scout project. He walks precincts with me and manages field. And then my son Nick, he's not involved in the campaign, but I'm extremely proud of his service. He served in the war, in the Iraq War, and served 2 tours in Iraq, and he's a Marine vet, and I'm very proud of him. Yeah. So, my family really has been about service. So I think to them it's just another extension of the work. My Brandon never knew me other than volunteering. I think, he started off, I was changing his diaper in a PTA room, typing letters on an old Mac. Yeah. So.
Does he remember those days?
I don't think he remembers that day in particular, but I know he knows what it's like to go to meetings, and so he's just grown up, shaking hands and saying, "Yes, that's my mother. Yeah, where are we going now?" Yeah.
So there's been some big issues. The financial crisis had an impact on the city, and to make a long story short, huge impact on the law enforcement efforts.
Absolutely.
Huge reduction in force. What kind of a vision do you have for getting a city to be safer?
Yeah, it's a very serious issue. I mean, we go from 1,400 police officers now down to about 820. You can see that significant difference has made an impact. The crime is up. And you can't go anywhere with people saying, that I have concern about my car being broken into, my mail theft, speeding on the roads, because we're not really pushing the traffic enforcement as much as we should. We're just triaging calls at this point, trying to do that. We have to return the respect back to the police force and to the fire department. I know it sounds really trite, but until the public starts working with our public safety officers, and then we can start giving that confidence to them to rebuild the police force, know the public is behind them. And I think passing Measure F, which is the public, the negotiated pension reform, I think that'll go a long way to establishing that respect back with the community and our officers, so we can really start to rebuild.
And so you think then we'll be in a position for people to want to come work for San Jose and be on the force?
Absolutely. It'll take out that disability part and return some certainty back to what kind of benefits the officers will be getting. And I think then we'll be a little bit more competitive in our hiring. Right now we just aren't competitive, and we're losing officers because they're still under the old rules, and we really need to resolve that. We've got to build the bridge between the public and our safety officers, and because we really need them on the streets.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
We have other problems.
We do.
Housing, affordability, the homeless question. What are you going to do about all that?
Oh my gosh, take office day one, we're going to hit the ground running with a lot of really serious issues, as I said, public safety, but just overall affordability of San Jose. My sons still live with me. I mentioned that their older one, my son will be 32 next week. Brandon's 25, but they can't afford the rents.
Yeah.
They're working, but they just don't make enough, to be moving out. And so we have to look at the high cost of living in San Jose. Homeless is probably one of the #1 issues now I hear, and that wasn't that way 4 years ago. So we really have to work on trying to implement the housing first model, and trying to get homeless housed and start in transitional housing, work up into permanent, and get those services on site so that we can really start to move people forward. I don't think people really want to be homeless. I think there's a lot of working homeless, a lot of people living in cars and couch surfing, and so it's finding places for people to live and work in San Jose so that we're a great city, and we shouldn't be divided on some of these issues.
Well, then another divisive issue is the whole question of transportation. How do we get around? And the streets are so broken, but also slow. And
right.
Do you have any solutions for?
I supported the sales tax, which again is going to go towards our public safety and improving our road quality, because potholes and the deterioration of roads is taking a toll. I have an innovative solution, at least an interim solution now, that we could start to work on really making our public transportation system work on an interim basis. Is the downtown dash goes around downtown, but it really ends at the Deer Dawn Station border. I want to expand the downtown dash down West San Carlos to Santana Row, so you connect Deer Dawn Station and Santana Row.
Is this a bus service, or?
There's a bus that goes there now.
And it's called the Dash?
Well, there's a Dash, and it's free.
Oh.
And downtown gets a free service, so you can travel around downtown and take the Dash. But I want to expand it and connect those two really important centers so that if you want to go have dinner downtown or you want to go see a movie at Santana Row, now that we've lost our cinema downtown, unfortunately. And I think the shuttle has a little bit sexier connotation than a bus. And so it might be a way of getting people to use public transportation, leave their car at home, and go to destinations. Rather than, I think our public transportation now, it really doesn't take us where we need to go. We need to look at more interim uses and get people involved and taking shuttles and buses and VT light rail, and then excited about the possibility of BART coming to San Jose at some point.
So you see as a council member working with the Valley Transportation Authority and getting what you think are some suggestions that
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I think there's a cry to really to better our public transportation system, and I think it's really worth bringing in that dialogue again, like I've done before, bringing in the community to really talk about some difficult issues and not look at that we have this plan. This is the plan we're going to follow. Well, times have changed, and people are changing, and the economy is changing, and how can we look at it differently? How we can some interim solutions that really people start to use now, because then you get people used to public transportation. They're gonna love it. They're gonna want to use it. Yeah.
Other issues, the whole development. I know Coyote Valley has come up, and real concerns about losing a beautiful landscaped area.
It was kind of amazing to me to hear that there's another project development. I think it's the Panatone site that they're looking at putting maybe warehouses in between Metcalf Road and Bailey Road in Coyote Valley, which I had served on the Coyote Valley Task Force. Mayor Ron Gonzalez appointed me back then. And, to go through that, the Coyote Valley Task Force for about 6 years and to see how those plans are going. And really why it didn't ever move forward is because we knew the cost of the infrastructure needed to build out in Coyote Valley was so expensive and so exorbitant that we can't get the public transportation down there. The cost of public safety, bringing that to that area, it just wasn't going to pencil out. And so, that plan stalled, and now to see something come forward, really, I guess it worries me because I don't want to see development in Coyote Valley. There's a wildlife corridor there that we really need. I know people don't understand the need, but you've got two significant mountain ranges, and you need to have the wildlife traveling between the two corridors. And it's a beautiful area. It's our agricultural history. It's what makes part of San Jose great. It's a beautiful area. I urge people to go down and visit if they don't know where it is, and I really want to protect that area.
How do you see yourself working with other council members when you're elected? People have talked about you're only supposed to deal with your geographical area, and yet you do have responsibilities for the whole city.
Oh, of course. You mentioned, Deer Dawn Station on one side and Santana Row on the other. Well, Chappie Jones is District 1, so we would share any commonalities around Winchester Boulevard, Santana Row. There's some issues with displacement that are going on in his district, which then obviously affects District 6. So I think there's a balance there, and I look forward to working with him. Raul Perales, we share Deer Dawn Station on one side and the other. So when it comes to how we handle Deer Dawn Station and making it a really central transportation area for the city, I would really excited about working with him on that. I think there's some exciting possibilities of how we can connect the trail system in. We can connect, really make that a destination. We've termed it that when I sat on the Deer Dawn Good Neighbor Committee, we called it Destination.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. We called it Destination Deer Dawn is what we called it at that point. And so I think, I'm supported by Councilmember Rocha, that's District 9 on the southern border. We share a lot of very similar values, and I think, we can go into that with a collaborative effort, and I really look forward to kind of getting a lot of things done and, and working with my colleagues.
How are you staying in touch with the residents of the district? I guess walking precincts and talking to people. You probably have holes in your shoes by now.
Yeah, I think I've worn out one pair of shoes already. But that's the best part. I love precinct walking. I love engaging with people because that's how you really learn face-to-face what the issues are. And to find out that homeless is much more of an issue from the resident. We see it as, from a leadership point, we realize that there's an issue. But when the residents see that and you talk about that housing first model with them, they're like, yeah, we want to get more involved. I mean, there was a story just recently on Nextdoor where we had a family living on Cahill Park. And I saw, instead of members saying, let's call the police, we need to move the homeless out of here, no, everybody started saying, no, let's call Sacred Heart, let's call Office of Supportive Housing, let's see what we can do to help. That's my neighborhood. And I want to grow my neighborhood's strengths to the other areas of District 6. And I think, we become stronger that way, and we become, much more powerful. And it's good for San Jose. And as I said, I love doing that.
Well, you've been serving on so many different capacities. I've learned a few things here that I wasn't aware of, that you're out there. And it must get challenging, though, going out day after day after day. And
I've been doing this for 25 years plus. I know it's hard. Time flies. I remember when my kids were small, and now they're grown men. But it's ingrained. I am a person of service. From being a candy striper, and sitting on various commissions and boards. But this is what I want to do. This is, I think, who I am, and it's nice to see my sons do that. And it's part of who I am.
We have about a minute left. If somebody wants to get hold of you, Helen Chapman, what would they do?
We have a website, helenchapman2016.com. There's a phone number. You can contact me anytime. A lot of people do, and we will get right back to you because, again, I want to hear from people. I want to hear what concerns are. If you've got ideas, or even a grand idea that maybe we haven't thought of, that City Council isn't talking about. And, this is how we involve our communities and we make life better. But, yeah, I want to hear from people, and please do contact me anytime.
Do people have a good time volunteering for you?
Oh, we have fun. We have fun. Yeah, we go out precinct walking. I have some great volunteers. And these are people I've had relationships for years. And I think some people are amazed at how many people I know in District 6. Like, wow, you've done this. And yeah. But, it's all good, and it's fun. It's like connecting with people.
That's exactly the quality of a person I'd like to find. And someone who really cares, someone who's got a family that's committed, and someone who knows what's going on. So,
yeah.
Helen Chapman, thank you for being on Democratic Television.
This has been a pleasure. Thank you very, very much.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching DTV. Give us a call at 408-445-9500 or visit our website, www.sccdp.org.